He has the best handle the NBA has ever seen, and he made one of the most important shots in NBA Finals history. But at the same time, he's also been called the most problematic player of his generation. Kyrie Irving. To some, he's a pure genius. To others, he's a perfect example of how great talent can self-destruct. He won a championship, then left. He built a super team, then it all fell apart. So the question is simple, but the answer is never easy. Is Kyrie Irving a genius? Or is he a slow-moving presence? Watch this video until the end, because the definition isn't as curvy as you might think. In NBA history, we've seen many great players, dominant players, efficient players, players who win with power. But few make the basket feel like art. Kyrie Irving is one of them. When the ball is in his hands, logic stops working. Defenders don't lose because they're slow, they lose because they're confused. His moves aren't always fast, they aren't always powerful, but they're always unpredictable. One small crossover can change the course of a defender's life. One simple fake can captivate the arena, and that's where Kyrie differs. He's not just a point guard, he's not just a scorer, he's an artist who paints with the ball. But every great artist has a dark side. And the brighter the light of genius, the longer the shadow it follows. The question is no longer about talent. Kyrie Irving's talent has never been debated. The question is, will this genius lead Kyrie to immortality? Or will it slowly destroy him? Kyrie Andrew Irving was born on March 23, 1992, in Melbourne, Australia. A place far from the glitz and glamour of the NBA. Far from Madison Square Garden. Far from Staples Center. But basketball is in his blood. His father, Derek Irving, was a professional basketball player. For young Kyrie, the sound of the ball bouncing on the gym floor was a lullaby. But life didn't offer an easy start. When Kyrie was very young, his mother died of an illness. There was no drama, no media scrutiny, just a loss too great for a child to comprehend. That loss didn't make him quiet, it didn't make him weak. Instead, Kyrie found another way to speak. He speaks through dribbling, through movement, through perfect control over something he can master when the world feels out of control. For Kyrie, the basket is not a refugee. It is home. There is no special academy, no scientific method. Kyrie Irving's handling is born from thousands of hours alone with the ball. He doesn't just dribble, he's one with it. Right to left, left to back, between the legs, behind the back. All done without looking or thinking. His coaches often say, "We don't teach him those tricks, we just tell him to play." And so Kyrie's philosophy was formed. He doesn't like limitations, doesn't like rigid systems, doesn't like being told how to think. On the court, that makes him a genius. Off the court? That would be trouble. Defenders facing him never know what's coming. And Kyrie loves that. Because in the heat of it, he's in complete control. When Kyrie arrived at Duke University, the basketball world awaited. Coach K, a legendary program, immense pressure. But fate tested him again. Injuries. The season almost ended before it began. Just 11 games, 11 chances, 11 moments to show who he was. And that was enough. In that short time, Kyrie showed elite control, creative finishing, and the mentality NBA stars don't need long stats. They only see the potential of an unlimited ceiling. In the 2011 NBA draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers selected Kyrie Irving with the number 1 pick. A kid who had lost everything was now the hope of a city. In Cleveland, Kyrie immediately shone. Rookie of the Year, All-Star, the highlight every night. But the wins wouldn't come. The Cavaliers lost and lost and lost again. Kyrie scored, but every night ended with the same scoreline. And that's where the equality of a young star came in. He was great, he was celebrated, but he wasn't going anywhere. In Kyrie's heart, one question began to arise. What good is genius if it doesn't bring wins? That answer would come with a king who decided to return home. In the summer of 2014, one decision shocked the entire NBA. LeBron James returned to Cleveland. For this city, it wasn't just a transfer, it was redemption. For Kyrie Irving, it was the beginning of a new chapter and also the beginning of a conflict he hadn't yet realized. Suddenly, everything changed. The Cavaliers were no longer a lottery pick, they were title contenders. The media spotlight is on, expectations are soaring, Kyrie is now playing alongside the best player in the world. On the court, the chemistry is palpable, the pick and roll is lethal, the spacing is perfect, the offense is unstoppable. LeBron is the brain, Kyrie is the knife, and together, they start winning. NBA Finals, first season together, despite losing to the Warriors, Cleveland is back. But behind the victory, there's an unspoken feeling. Kyrie is basking in the success but also starting to feel the shadows. Because on LeBron's teams, there's always one center of gravity. And everything else revolves around it. 2016 NBA Finals, Cleveland Cavaliers vs. Golden State Warriors. 73 wins, the best team ever in the regular season, Stephen Curry on top of the world, the Warriors are up 3-1. No team in the history of the NBA Finals has ever come back from this situation, not until the Cavaliers refused to give up. Game 5, Game 6, and finally Game 7. Oracle Arena, the noise, the pressure of history, the final minutes are slow, every dribble feels heavy, every mistake could end it all. Then the moment came, Kyrie Irving with the ball, Stephen Curry standing in front of him, no big screen, no elaborate scheme, just one-on-one. Pure art, one dribble to the right, step back, take the shot, time seemed to stop, the ball floated and went in. Swish, it wasn't just a point. It was a statement. In the NBA's biggest moment, Kyrie Irving didn't hide behind LeBron, he stood level. And the world saw it, Cleveland won, history was made. And Kyrie is immortal. But ironically, it's at this highest point that the seeds of rift begin to grow the fastest. After the championship parade ends, after the confetti is cleared, and the TV cameras are turned off, reality sets in. The media talks about LeBron, LeBron analysis, LeBron legacy. Kyrie's shooting is praised but always as an accessory to someone else's story. And for some players, that's enough. For Kyrie Irving, it's not. He's not the type to be subordinate to anyone, not because of ego, but because of how he views himself. Kyrie doesn't want to be known as a sidekick, he wants to feel the weight of leadership, wants to know what it's like to be the center of everything. Inside the locker room, the differences in character began to be felt. LeBron was vocal, structured, dominant. Kyrie was introverted, reflective, independent. Two stars, two worlds. And though they won together, they never truly aligned. In the summer of 2017, without major drama, without emotional press conferences, Kyrie Irving made a quiet decision that shook the league. He requested a trade. Many were shocked, many were angry, many didn't understand. Why leave a championship team? Why leave LeBron James? Kyrie's answer was simple and complex at the same time. He wanted to lead, wanted to fail on his own terms, wanted to win on his own merit. For Kyrie, living in someone else's shadow was another form of imprisonment. And if he had to pay a high price for that freedom, he was ready. Cleveland granted his request. His next destination was the Boston Celtics. Boston welcomed Kyrie as a savior, a winning tradition, a rabid fan base, a talented young roster. It was the perfect stage to prove that Kyrie Irving could be a true leader. At first, everything looked promising. Good stats, clutch moments, the spotlight returning to him. But leadership isn't about numbers, it's about trust, it's about communication, it's about lifting others up, not just yourself. Injuries struck again, playoffs were passed from the sidelines. And when Kyrie returned, the chemistry never really recovered, the young players were confused, Kyrie's message often felt vague, sometimes philosophical, sometimes contradictory. Boston didn't need an artist. They needed a compass. And slowly, the cracks became chasms. Kyrie Irving wanted to lead but wasn't fully prepared for the price. Everything changed, not because of a crossover, not because of a game-winning shot, but because of one sentence. In a casual, almost carefree interview, Kyrie Irving said something that sounded like a joke. The earth is flat. At first, people laughed, thinking it was a joke, thinking Kyrie was playing around. But Kyrie didn't back down, didn't correct him, didn't retract his statement. Instead, he stood behind it. He started talking about formal education. Don't swallow information raw. Think for yourself. not follow the system. And here's where the trouble began. For Kyrie, it wasn't about geography, it was about freedom of thought. But to the public, it looked like a disregard for the facts. The NBA wasn't ready, the media wasn't ready, and the fans were divided. Some said, he's just being honest with himself. Others said, he has a huge platform and that's dangerous. And from that day on, Kyrie Irving was no longer just a basketball player. He became a meme, a target for criticism, a symbol of resistance to the mainstream. Every word he uttered was now scrutinized, every interview twisted, every silence considered mysterious. And Kyrie never learned how to play it safe in front of the cameras. In the summer of 2019, Kyrie Irving left Boston. No sweet goodbyes, no nostalgia. His new destination, the Brooklyn Nets. With him came one big name, Kevin Durant. Two superstars, two free spirits, two players who didn't like to be controlled. Brooklyn wasn't the Lakers, not the Celtics, no heavy history. And that's what they wanted. On paper, it looked like the beginning of a dynasty. Their skill level was absurd, their shot creation elite, and their clutches fearless. But reality soon came knocking. Durant's injury, Kyrie's injury. Seasons were cut short, and when they finally played together, the world changed again. The pandemic came, the NBA stopped, and then new rules came into effect. Rules that would test Kyrie's principles more than anything before. In the 2021 to 2022 season, New York had a vaccine mandate. Without a vaccine, no home games. Kyrie Irving chose not to get vaccinated. Not because of injury, not because of laziness, but because of principle. The decision immediately exploded. The media criticized, fans were angry, Nets management was confused, Kyrie did not play and the salary was cut. The team went without one of its best players. And this is where the outline of Kyrie's life is clearly seen. He always chose personal beliefs, individual freedom, even if it meant losing money, losing trust, losing image. But some saw it as courage, some saw it as selfishness. Meanwhile, the Nets slowly lost patience. In the eyes of the public, the narrative grew louder: Kyrie Irving is a problem. No matter how beautiful his game, no matter how clutch he was in the playoffs. The label stuck and it was hard to shake. But as usual, Kyrie Irving never tried to please everyone. At one point, everything collapsed at once. The Brooklyn Nets, who were once touted as potential dynasty, began to lose their way. James Harden left, Kevin Durant began to get frustrated, and Kyrie Irving remained the center of controversy. Every time Kyrie played, he was extraordinary, efficient, clutch, untouchable. But every time he didn't play, chaos took over. For management, one question grew louder: is this much talent worth this much uncertainty? And for the NBA world, one conclusion began to form: Kyrie Irving is an uncontrollable player. Not because he was bad, but because he wouldn't submit. Finally, the decision was made. At the 2023 trade deadline, Brooklyn released Kyrie Irving. Without ceremony, without an emotional farewell, as if a grand experiment had finally been declared a failure. For many, this was the final proof. See? Kyrie's genius always ends in disaster. But Kyrie's story wasn't over. Not even close to the end. The Dallas Mavericks, not glamorous, not the media-fueled spectacle of New York or Los Angeles. Here, Kyrie Irving didn't arrive as the league's savior. He arrived as a basketball player. Beside him, a young star, Luka Dončić. Unlike LeBron, unlike Durant, Luka wasn't a verbally dominant figure. He led through his play. And that oddly suited Kyrie. In Dallas, Kyrie looked different, calmer, less media-savvy, and more focused on the court. No outlandish statements, no big drama, just basketball. And when Kyrie plays freely without the pressure to be a symbol, without the demands of being an ideological leader, he returns to what he always was: a basketball artist. It doesn't mean everything is perfect, it doesn't mean his past is gone, but for the first time in a long time, Kyrie Irving seems at peace. And perhaps that's his greatest triumph. So, who is Kyrie Irving really? Is he a genius? Without a doubt, he's the best handler we've ever seen, the most creative finisher of his generation, the most daring shot in the biggest moments. But is he also the agent of his own destruction? Maybe so. Because the modern world isn't always kind to those who refuse to be boxed in. Kyrie Irving never wanted to be a product, never wanted to be a poster boy, never wanted to be a media-generated role model. He just wants to be himself. And sometimes, the price of that honesty is very high. Kyrie isn't a villain, nor a perfect hero. He's a human being with celestial talent and a mind that continues to rebel. Maybe the right question isn't, is Kyrie Irving a genius or a self-destructor? But is the basketball world ready to accept a genius who refuses to live by the script? Because as long as the ball is still bouncing in his hands, as long as that crossover is still making defenders fall, Kyrie Irving will always be one of the most beautiful puzzles in NBA history. Kyrie Irving is not a story of right or wrong. It's a story of a man with extraordinary talent who refused to live according to a script. He didn't want to be a symbol, he didn't want to be a product, he didn't want to be what the world wanted him to be. He just wanted to be himself. And maybe that's what makes him so genius, and so hard to accept. So now it's your turn to answer. Do you think Kyrie Irving is a misunderstood genius, or a living example of self-destruction? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Because Kyrie Irving's story is never black and white. And it probably will never be finished. If you like basketball documentaries with in-depth stories like this, don't forget to click like and subscribe. Because on this channel we don't just talk about scores, but the stories behind them.